don't say slurs before we start recording, right before I hit the record button, Sam. That would be a horrible thing for you to do.
Mm-hmm. I know, that would be just terrible. And we are live on the TikToks.
I mean, every week.
Not every.
Every 2 weeks we are live on the TikTok as we record this, the 15th episode.
Yes,
of the
indeed.
DndBeyond podcast. I'm Connor.
And I am Sam.
We are not brothers, as
No.
we're well aware at this point.
And again, not in a dungeon.
Not in a dungeon quite yet.
We're working on it.
I mean, some might call the dimly lit interior of our abode dungeon-like.
I mean, right now it's quite well lit.
It is quite well lit. I mean, we go out of our way to more properly light our home when we know we are recording.
True, I realize I forgot to set up the extra lights, but we got the overhead.
It's fine. It's been a day, a week, a month, even a year.
We're not doing the Friends theme.
I'm not wanting to, really.
I mean, that's part. You just did part of their lyrics, so.
Yeah, I didn't want to sing it. I was just referencing.
Fair enough.
You don't reference where you're from?
You're from Friends?
Fucking Buckeyes, man.
You're from, but Friends is set in New York. And
Yeah, but you're a Buckeye.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. You don't do...
From the Buckeye State.
Unfortunately, you are. I mean, being from the Buckeye State does indeed...
Unfortunately, there's a subsect of people who have superseded the statehood... The statehood identity and replaced it with the Buckeye being a collegiate identity. I didn't go to that college. University.
The Ohio State University is what
that is the one.
There, yes?
That is the one.
Well, Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse randomly just kind of came out like a day or two early for no real reason beyond Wizards of the Coast just deciding to do that. So that's fun.
I mean, the book has been available for, 2 months now, but the individual has only been available, you said since, what's today? Today is Thursday, so since Tuesday?
I know, but it wasn't supposed to come out until, Friday or something, right?
I have no idea.
I don't remember the specific dates of
We
that,
could go back and listen to the podcasts where we talk about that.
I mean,
or you could, podcast listener.
Yeah, I mean... I have to listen to the podcast 3 times every time we do it. So I really prefer not to have to do it again if I can avoid it.
Fair enough.
Logistically speaking. But I just finished reading through the entirety of Call of the Netherdeep.
Yes.
Yesterday, as of recording this. And I'm very excited to possibly run this game in the very near future.
Yeah, we got a group.
Scheduling permitting.
We got a group raring to go.
Oh, they're going. I don't know if they're raring.
Oh.
I mean, Darren's raring.
Darren's always raring.
Hey, it rhymes with his name.
Hey, Darren raring.
Darren.
The raring Darren.
I mean, sure.
I don't know.
I mean, why not? I guess.
But yeah, we have.
Wow, this is riveting conversation.
We should really be more interesting. Let's talk about how we have 2 new players coming to this table.
We do. Some coworkers of mine for Call of the Netherdeep are going to be coming to this table for the first time. Very excited. I feel like we are much more excited than they are, but
I mean, they don't necessarily know what to expect. Where you, me, the aforementioned Darren, and the previously other podcast mentioned Salem are all batshit insane when it comes to D&D.
Oh, we are by far the craziest when it comes to the D&D, at least for people that we know.
That's true.
Anyway, I mean, we have a format, kind of, right, for the show.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, we have an Instagram account now.
Yes, we just started the Instagram account last week, I believe.
Yeah. Right now, it's mostly just reposts from the TikTok. The Instagram creators are much... They're much better supported than the TikTok creators. Obviously, the YouTube creators are the best supported of any of them, and we're still working on breaking into that.
Yes, I feel that if we had more time on our plates individually and as a company, Are we a company? We're a company.
No, we're not a company.
We are. We keep each other company.
Damn, that was the same stupid comment from the both of us. Anyway, we have an Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram in the link tree in the bio. Last week, the last episode of the podcast, not last week. This isn't a weekly.
No, this is bi-weekly.
Last episode of the podcast, we talked about our Blood Magic supplement, which you can find on DriveThruRPG for $4.99. It's pretty cool. We think it's pretty cool. If you want to check it out, there's even a free preview pack for it, also on the DriveThruRPG. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel. Still working on that spell points video. Like I said, it's been a day, a week, a month.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on. But look, if you're listening to this podcast right now, go ahead and go listen to some other ones and then review them. That really helps us.
Yes, we'd like to podcasting services around.
Yeah, we'd like to be bumped up in those ratings. Indeed. We might even shout you out if you give us a nice one.
I mean, we might.
We should. New thing.
That sounds like a you project.
I will take care of that.
Sensational. So we got some, as we often do, as we have slowly begun to form the format of this podcast.
Indeed.
We have the news items of the day. Some interestingly juicy ones, considering our proximity to the recent D&D Direct. I was not expecting that many juicy announcements, but alas, here we are. Top story, number one story, D&D Adventures League is going to be accepting the Monsters of the Multiverse, Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. It's going to be the main subject of today, by the way. I don't think we specifically, explicitly said that.
That's fair.
But that will be the main topic of the day, is Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. Adventures League is going to take in Monsters of the Multiverse and forego any of the options from Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Wizards of the Coast has already hinted that Monsters of the Multiverse is going to be the updated, basically replacement to Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. But the very popular rule that you may have seen at various tables is the DM instituted Player's Handbook +1 rule, and that comes from the Adventurers League. And it seems that the new Adventurers League format, well, for one, it's going to require any existing Adventurers League and players to update their characters with the contents of Monsters of the Multiverse, meaning any of the race options that you may have that are in Monsters of the Multiverse that may have undergone some changes, which of them are quite many. Mm-hmm. You'll have to update your character with the new stats for your racial features. The official announcement comes as, quote, if you possess a character with one of the race options presented in Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, you must update your character to the new entry as presented in that product. This has always been the policy of D&D rules usable with D&D Adventures League campaigns. However, we also understand that a large number of playable races have been impacted by the changes. We ask that Dungeon Masters and fellow players with access to Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse exhibit some patience as players spend time updating their characters to the revised race mechanics. Now, they go on to say, there are revisions of all monster stat blocks from Volo's Guide to Monsters to Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes in Monsters of the Multiverse, as well as some new stat blocks. Published adventures playable in D&D Adventurers League with older versions of the stat blocks will not be changed. However, Dungeon Masters may choose to use the new stat blocks in their place as long as it does not significantly impact the challenge rating of the encounter. Official D&D Adventurers League adventures will start using the new stat blocks from this point forward. Dungeon Craft adventure designers will need to use the updated stat blocks for monsters appearing in Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse starting with the next season of Adventurers League beginning on September 1st. Players are in a little bit of an awkward position because there's some builds that may be going on in Adventurers League that require an older version of the Tabaxi or the Lizard Folk or the Yanti, the Aarakocra, etc. And it seems, it's, for one, it is nice to have all of the race options collected in one book for your PHB +1. But now you have to choose between, do I want an interesting race option or do I want an interesting subclass option by taking Tasha's or Xanathar's Guide to Everything as my +1? I don't see why Player's Handbook Monsters of the Multiverse +1 couldn't be the thing.
Yeah. I mean, they have to obviously put a kind of limit on it somewhere, but at the same time, especially with the way I've never played an Adventures League. I've
Same.
witnessed some Adventures League games. I've read online a lot of people's disdain for Adventures League. But with that being said, obviously they have to put a lot of rules in place to make it kosher, to make it friendly to everyone. And while Wizards of the Coast is going towards the floating +2, +1, or 3+1s on every class, or every race, pardon me, I feel that significantly changes how you choose races in D&D. And honestly, like, I think the options in the player's handbook are generally going to cover 90% of most players. So if this were me, I would definitely choose my +1 to be probably in the subclass arena.
Yeah, I would definitely pull Xanathar's or Tasha's as my +1. And I believe that feel free to call me out on this if I'm wrong, Internet. But I believe that if you are playing in an Adventures League campaign that, for example, takes place in Eberron or takes place in like the Sword Coast or Waterdeep or something, you get access to that campaign setting book for any of the options available in that. But all of this is kind of implying that if you take any of these options that are available in these books, if there is an updated version of the option, like for example, if you're playing in a Theros Adventures League campaign, I don't know if those exist, but hypothetically, and you wanted to play a satyr, you wouldn't be able to use the satyr stat block that is provided in Theros. You would need to use the stat block that is provided in Monsters of the Multiverse, which kind of in and of itself breaks the PHB +1 rule, kind of.
It's a footnote. It's an exception. It's the exception that proves the rule, hypothetically.
It definitely feels like to me that the simpler option would have just been, hey, PHB, Monsters of the Multiverse, +1. You just get an additional book available to you if you want to take any of the race options.
Right.
And then just call that it. And if you want, and with the caveat that if you wanted to select Volo's Guide to Monsters to get an older version of a race, you can't do that.
I would say that would be fair, but
I think that's fair and that makes sense. But who am I to say how people should play D&D?
Again, Adventures League, it's the official D&D public game, and they have to put restrictions on it. And you know, at some point, I'm sure there's somebody at Wizards of the Coast that does, all right, we're just gonna make it simple.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Chef's kiss.
I don't like that. Yeah. That's a horrible sound effect. Moving on. Magic the Gathering's next D&D set will play more like, well, D&D.
Wizards makes sense. Logically.
Wizards had great success last year crossing over D&D and Magic the Gathering, making it their best summer pack of all time. This year's D&D crossover, Commander's League, Battle for Baldur's Gate, is focused on a complex drafting set of commander-focused cards and play reminiscent of D&D. Like the 2020 Commander's League set, this one will be focused on drafting using a 60-card deck as opposed to the typical 100 draft card deck that leverages the partner mechanic introduced in 2016, giving versatility to your chosen commander in the potential mana pool and powerful new abilities. Now, they're partnering as opposed to two creatures, the commander with the backgrounds pulled from D&D-esque settings. This time around, though, Wizards is including even more classic characters from D&D lore, including characters from Forgotten Realms, the Baldur's Gate video game series, and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. They also added a new dungeon card, a mechanic which allows players to push their luck in the Undercity below Baldur's Gate. This time around, players will make use of their new initiative mechanic, which allows characters to move through the dungeon more quickly. The D20 makes a return, allowing players to roll and use abilities based on their roll. Online previews for this pack will start on May 30th, and the pack itself drops on June 10th. This is taking the your kind of basic, not basic, because we all know that Magic, while at its front, at its facade, is simple, but once you get into it, man, they can do people can do crazy things with decks. This takes it and makes it a little more even more complicated.
Oh yeah.
Combining it with our beloved yet complicated system of Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, getting into Magic the Gathering is so difficult. And every time one of these new sets gets released, it's always like, wow, these cards are awesome, and they show off a whole bunch of cool cards, and it's like they're using terms and abilities that don't make sense unless you are already in the know. And someone who's passively into Magic the Gathering, like likes it theoretically, or maybe is like played around in arenas a little bit, that would be jazzed about something like this, myself for example. I would be like, these cards are so cool, and it's all D&D. I mean, you've got Volo, you've got the Elder Brain, Elminster, Asterion, Minsk, and Boo, all as Planeswalker. Like, but at the same time, when I'm literally looking at these cards in front of me and I'm reading the abilities, I'm like, I have no idea what the ramifications of these abilities are associated with the cards, because a lot of them are new, and maybe I'm just like a freaking idiot or something.
You are.
But thank you. But it seems really, really difficult to use. Also, the D20 system for the previous Forgotten Realms MTG set, it just ratcheted up the complexity for, in my experience in playing arenas, like basically being like, all right, well, here's a literal roll of the dice. If you roll well, then you'll win.
Yeah, it takes, I mean, obviously the D20 is very iconic to D&D, representing luck, basically, or the fate, or the randomness of the universe, where they had to, breaking it down to that the even more mechanical function in the Magic the Gathering. They previewed a card on the article, which was basically like, roll the D20. If you roll a 1, based on your roll, you can cast X number of instant plays, which it was like for one, if you rolled a 1, you got to play 1 instant card, but if you rolled a 20, you got to play 4, and it takes it from a fate or a luck idea just to a very mechanical, can I gamble to get high enough?
Yeah. And that the Wand of Wonders, which I think is what which I think is what you're talking about. The whole point is that you're exiling cards from the top of your library until you exile a card of a certain type, and then you shuffle the rest of your library, and then you can cast a certain number of instant or sorceries from the exiled cards, which also, like I get it, is kind of like a pseudo self-milling thing. But man, I know that that's logically what that would be good for, but I don't know how, and I don't know how to implement that. And not knowing like the entire set yet, it's gonna be hard for a layperson to.
And since these are draft games, this is focused around drafting.
Yeah.
Not even, they're going to sell pre-built 100 card set or decks,
as they do with every set.
As they do with every set, but with these, it's set around drafting. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years we see a new product that comes out from Wizards of the Coast that is basically this, just pulled out of both Magic and D&D and thrown into its own new game with its own rule book.
I disagree with you on that one. I don't think Wizards of the Coast is going to, like, are you saying like another trading card game?
No, I think that I think they could. I think if this continues to get as complex as it is, and they could take this concept of using both a playing card game and an adventure game, I think they could make that itself another product which they could sell.
So kind of like a deck building board game mixed with I could
a non-trading card deck builder.
And deck builders tend to be a lot more simplistic with the cards for the very nature that they're a board game and they're meant to be played by people that may have not ever played it before or understand the rules.
But like Dominion, which is one of our favorite deck builder games, they have so many expansions that, yeah, if you are just the regular person, here's what you start with. But then there's just so much more room to go with once you're beyond that. And I think they could hit that corner of the market with this. Or something like this.
The most amount of complexity in Magic the Gathering that I understood and was able to build like a real life deck around is when they did their first run of Theros back in 2013, 2014. That level of complexity I understood. And it feels like with the subsequent sets that have come out, it's just gotten more and more and more. Like they've ratcheted up the complexity for like the hardcore fans, which to be fair, if you're into Magic the Gathering, you're into Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating because it's something I would like to be into, especially when they release cool sets that I thematically vibe with. But I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
What's next?
Oh boy. D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond is giving away free books right now in the month of May. At this very moment. 2 books right now are free. Acquisitions Incorporated, completely for free. They started it today as we are recording. Several days ago, as of you'll first be able to listen to this. The book is based off the exploits of an adventuring party of the same name that debuted back in 2008 as part of a collaboration with Wizards of the Coast and Penny Arcade. The second book you're probably going to be much more familiar with, Lost Mines of Phandelver. The original starter set adventure in the Essentials kit is going to be put up for free. We were already talking about when they announced how Dragons of Stormwreck Isle is going to be just kind of a drop-in replacement for the starter set, what's going to happen to the Lost Mines of Phandelver, and we theorized that they were going to put it up online for free, as they talked about doing for like the prequel adventure of Spelljammers, and it seems that they already planned on doing that, and they plan on doing it a lot sooner. If you are listening to this live on TikTok or in a podcast service around the globe, you can get them right now for free. Lost Mines of Phandelver will be free in perpetuity for all users. So, as great as Dragons of Stormwreck Isle is,
we assume.
I mean, if they're going full in on this to replace Lost Mines of Phandelver, in a weird way, this move kind of makes Lost Mines of Phandelver even a better way to get someone into D&D, because you don't have a monetary wall to go past.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just going to be good for, any low-level play. Like, I've read through the Lost Mines of Phandelver module before, and as much as I'm bad at using modules, it's a good little story.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that the Acquisitions Incorporated is going to be free starting now on May 19th as we record this, and for a limited time, 7 days afterwards. So that would put you up to the 26th of May, which if you are watching this podcast as it posts, you have a day left. So if you're watching on the TikTok, like all 2 of you, there you go. Acquisitions Incorporated. You can get it for free on D&D Beyond right now. Lost Mines of Phandelver later as well. This all came as part of the D&D Beyond developer update that they did on their YouTube channel. They apparently plan on doing more of these in the future. The guy that was Joe Starr, who was doing the developer update, said...
Just remind everybody that Joe Starr is the last name of the first couple of JoJo's in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Sensational. He concluded the update with a warning for D&D Beyond users, and that while he is confident that users will not be affected, he did mention the possibility that service may be interrupted, as of right now, with people downloading it. That is also at the same time they're making their transition to being a part of the Wizards of the Coast family. And incidentally, this was yesterday that they officially joined, May 18th. Coincidentally, this is the same date where 2 D&D books, Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, are going to be delisted from D&D Beyond because their information is folded into Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. Yeah.
I do like that note that, hey, people are, that's a great way to drive traffic to the website. First off, is give free shit away. But I like that they're like, hey, people are going to be downloading this. The server's going to be slow. And everybody who plays any modern multiplayer video game is like, oh yeah, new season, shit sucks first day.
Yeah, it tends to be like that. I think it's very interesting that it was just like this little note. And it's like, oh yeah, we're also getting rid of Mordenkainen, Tome of Foes, and Volo's Guide to Monsters. See ya. Enjoy free stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Monsters in the Multiverse is the replacement for those books, in effect. The book itself on the back even makes it kind of clear in the third little blurb that you don't really have to replace if you don't want to. It's not like majorly mechanically changing. It's just making a lot of the monsters more balanced. A lot of the player races fit more in line with the new vision they have for D&D, which I'm sure we will see expanded on greatly in the coming years with the eventual 5.5.
Yes.
That is all but inevitable.
Yes, a lot of the updates Wizards has been making in the past year even has been started to direct everything towards 5.5.
And Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen, Tome of Foes aren't the only things that Wizards of the Coast is removing from the internet, is it, Sam?
So yes, onto our next story. The D&D board game Candlekeep Tomb of Annihilation is being pulled from Steam. For the past decade, Wizards has published a string of co-op board games using a rule set called the Dungeons & Dragons Adventuring System, a stripped-down rule set from our favorite hobby, used to complete adventures in a few hours. Tomb of Annihilation was among them. Originally created by Gary Gygax back in 1978 as a competitive dungeon for convention play, and was basically a meat grinder to kill off player characters. This 5-adventure game was published back in 2017 by BKOM Studios, but has been announced that it will be delisted from Steam on May 20th, which, if you are watching live, is tomorrow, due to a licensing agreement. Players who have it will be able to continue to play, but no new copies or expanded content will go out.
Gotta love some licensing. The developer that helped D&D make those games as well were the BKOM Studios, and they originally released on Steam in 2017. So they haven't been available on Steam for quite a long time.
5 years?
Which I find interesting that a licensing agreement has already become a problem within 5 years, because I feel like in the modern era, in the digital era, companies are pretty wise to how future licensing works.
Yeah.
Especially in an online medium. That's why it was difficult for so many older video games to get just remastered in their current form, especially because they have licensed music. That's why like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was so difficult, and they basically had to remake it with different songs, because all of the previous songs, the licensing agreements didn't factor in future digital remasterings and printings.
It's the same with a lot of TV shows that were produced from that have been moved to streaming platforms. They couldn't use the original music because they're not licensed for streaming platforms because they didn't exist.
Yeah, I am interested though in how this whole board game on Steam thing works. And it is tempting to just get it right now, because it is. Tomb of Annihilation is currently 85% off.
Yes.
The DLC is 60% off, and the complete bundle is 76% off. And it's going to be removed from sale tomorrow if you are watching this live. If you're watching this on a podcast service or YouTube around the globe.
We're sorry.
Tough shit. Deal with it. Be better next time.
Be on top of it. Yeah. I'm also wondering... I'm just now thinking of this, like you said, the licensing agreement. I'm just wondering if they're starting to, Wizards, obviously, Hasbro is starting to change things up because they are moving in, it almost seems, into a new era of the hobby.
Yeah. Was that a knuckle, or was that your
knuckle?
Dick?
No, that was my... Does your penis do that?
What, your penis don't pop?
You should see a doctor.
I mean, that's probably fine. D&D, the documentary, Role Players. It's going to be the title of the new D&D documentary, currently in production by production company XTR. They're calling it, quote, the definitive documentary about the popular role-playing game. Details about role players is scarce, but it will include never-before-seen archival footage and interviews with various celebrity D&D players. We could assume Matt Mercer, Chris Perkins, etc. The documentary's official description reads, role players will tell the all-encompassing story of Dungeons & Dragons, from the game's origin story to the cult-like devotion of its players, exploring the power of living in a fantasy world can have on real-life human connection. No release date has been announced for role players, nor has XTR said how the movie will be released. Wizards of the Coast and its parent company Hasbro are not involved in the production of the film. Neat. I'm mostly excited about the archival footage. I want to see what like old 80s shit they have from making old school D&D. It's like,
gotta wonder if they're gonna go like we said, probably celebrity DMD players. You gotta imagine your Matt Mercers, you gotta imagine your Brendan Mullins, your of course I'm blanking on his name, big muscly guy. played
I know who you're talking about.
Help me out here.
Joe Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello.
Manganiello.
But you also wonder if they're gonna do if they're gonna get anybody controversial like Ernie Gygax.
Yeah, that. Ooh. Oh, that'd be so juicy.
Right?
That would be so juicy.
For those of you who are unaware, Ernie Gygax, son of Gary Gygax, co-founder of Dungeons and Dragons, last year tried to restart TSR.
Yeah.
The original company that owned Dungeons and Dragons, and he had some very
questionable
viewpoints on who, what, how, and why you should play D&D.
Yeah, not a good look. I would love if they got him to just talk for a little while, because that man's a fucking nut job. Much in the same way that it is entertaining to watch a train wreck. Literally.
Yes.
It is entertaining to listen to.
You can't look away.
Now, the head of development for the documentary is Justin Lacob. It's like Jacob, but with an L. I don't know. And the director is Morgan John Fox. The production company, XTR, is best known for their Oscar-nominated documentary Ascension and for its new Apple Plus series, They Call Me Magic. They are also working on another documentary about trading cards, as well as a documentary movie about infamous TV psychic, Miss Cleo. This is the second ever D&D-based documentary in recent years, following Eye of the Beholder, which more focused on the artwork in Dungeons & Dragons.
Interesting.
Didn't know about Eye of the Beholder. That sounds cool. And that's a great name.
It really is.
Such a great title for a film. Anyway, I think I'm actually excited for this.
I'm interested in this.
I will genuinely watch this program.
Yeah.
This program.
Let's do a live react to it. 2.5 hours of just us staring at the TV going, okay, that's neat.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Wow.
All right, yeah.
Huh, neat.
Speaking of neat things.
Wrap-up time.
The May D&D sale discounts more than 16,000 supplements from 1st to 5th edition.
Ooh, buddy.
DriveThruRPG, where yours truly posts free content every month, as well as a large blood magic supplement, has all sorts of content from adventures to play options to even 1st edition handbooks available. Official D&D content and third-party supplements galore are all available to flavor your game however you see fit.
Now, 16,000 is quite a lot.
It's a lot.
Pretty much all of 2nd edition's content is heavily discounted. The 1st edition player's handbook. This is all digital, by the way. Mm-hmm. The 1st edition player's handbook. You can even find some niche titles. Minskin Boo's Journal of Villainy, the stealthiest, according to bellofsouls.net, the stealthiest Wizards of the Coast official 5th edition release of all time. It doesn't stop with them. You get obviously most of the bulk of the 16,000 is third-party supplements that are on sale. Lazy DM's workbook, Ancestry and Culture, City Point Crawl Generator. Very popular titles. Some old, some new. I would have happily participated our Blood Magic pack in this sale had I known that it was a thing.
Yeah. We're not that good.
Next wrap up. D&D new Demigorgon figure is announced. The Prince of Demons returns to the tabletop, announced this week. The Demigorgon Be the next demon lord to have its likeness immortalized as D&D Icons of the Realm figure. Two-headed demon was one of Dungeons & Dragons' first antagonists, appearing in the game's first monster manual. In recent years, the Demigorgon has become a household name because of Stranger Things. The mini looks dope. It's a 3D rendering, or I think it's a 2D rendering, actually. Anyway, it's a rendering. It looks cool. Yeah. I mean, it's the Demigorgon is the fourth demon prince to appear as an Icons of the Realm miniature, including Orcus, Juiblex, Yinoku, who's the demon lord of Knowles, Juiblex the slime one, and then Orcus. I mean, we know Orcus. I think it's cool that they do all of these demon lords. I think it's fun. I am still looking forward to a theoretical Gratz.
Oh, me too.
Figure that one would be so good.
Do you have a Gratz in your campaign? In your homebrew?
Yeah.
Okay, me too.
I mean, they have no reason to ever encounter him, but I have a reason for him to exist if they ever wanted to.
That's fair.
You know.
So we might buy that. Wizards. Anyway.
Interesting. Last wrap up.
Speaking of minis, WizKids is set to produce the Bells Hells minis. WizKids and Critical Role partnered last year to produce a number of monsters and NPCs from the show, but this is the first time they will be producing the core player characters. Vox Machina and Mighty Nein were both produced by Steamforged Games. Their offerings will include the core cast and Robbie Damon's Dorian Storm. Little Mr. Fern, played by Ashley Johnson's Wildfire Spirit, and Chetney's, played by Travis Willingham,
Chetney Pagaby,
his werewolf form. This set is expected to release this fall.
I mean, Fresh Cut Grass is just swagtastic. Laudna, really weird. Imogen has some cool spell effects. Orum's a guy. I think Ashton's is the coolest looking miniature.
From
a design standpoint.
When I saw Ashton, my first thought was, oh, look, Ford. Nope,
that's not Ford.
Green.
That is Ford's, like, punk rock cousin.
Kinda, yeah.
You know? And then, of course, Chetney Pagaby is a werewolf. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love a good werewolf.
Both his regular and werewolf forms.
Yeah.
He's very small.
Oh, yeah.
Unless he's werewolf. I thought he was like when he was in werewolf form, I've always pictured him as like a corgi werewolf.
Like a little tiny one.
Yeah.
I kind of have too, honestly.
But no, he's like 7 foot tall.
I mean, to be fair, in the scale of werewolves, that's still a small werewolf when you think about it.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think we've got some cool action poses from Imogen and Fern. Fresh Cut Grass, Laudna, and Dorian just kind of seem like they're standing there. Orem just has a generic, like, I've got a sword and a shield pose. Ashton doesn't give a fuck, obviously. I mean, that's kind of his whole thing.
I don't give a fuck. Okay.
Now. The inner nerd in me, I would totally buy a set of minis that are just the same couple of miniatures in design and coloring, just in, like, several different poses.
I mean,
I've considered getting additional Lucian Nilos to have him posed differently depending on the situations. But those are Hero Forge minis, which you are more easily able to do, especially if you have like a resin 3D printer and you just need to buy the STL files. Mm-hmm. That's shockingly affordable. It's like $7 for a mini, completely custom.
If you really like us and want to design a mini for us, let us know. We'll send you.
Gosh, that would be so cool.
We'll send you some character concept.
Now.
Let's talk.
We've been hinting about this. I mean, a lot of the news stories are surrounding its release. Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. It is the next monster manual, the Bestiary, the official updated Bestiary to Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Indeed.
If you have those two books, you're going to be flipping through this being like, wow, this is like 70% the same shit that I already have. And then you got to look closely at them, and it's like, wow, this is still like 90% of the same shit that I already have, with like some minor changes. I don't have a lot to say about this Bestiary because we already have most of it.
Yes.
The Sorrowsworn, the Shatterkai. I think there's new options for various like Drow and Duragar that are unique. There's some kobolds that come back. You got a lot of the demon lords again. It's very samey. And
I mean, yeah.
That is the point of this book, but as someone who wants some new stuff,
it's a little more, yeah, it's like we were saying, it's that update from how they've done it in the past. One of the major things being they've taken all these stat blocks from base they've taken these stat blocks and changed them to be more spell casting focused when you throw them at a party.
Yeah.
So as before, where a character like I have the Annis Hag right here, where before it would just have her under her abilities innate spell casting. Now her spell casting falls down into she has all action spells, so that's where her spells fall.
Yeah. I mean, it does really seem like just a lot of these are just basic formatting changes.
I mean, they really are.
Yeah, and like you do have some interesting, cool new stuff in there, but you gotta go searching for it. I mean, what was that? The Starspawn Hulk? That's new.
And the Starspawn Gru. I don't know.
Those are neat. It's just
the Larva Mage I know is old.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely some cool stuff, but like you're saying, did we need to spend the $34 to get this?
Probably not.
Probably not.
But we did it because we lack self-control.
And we needed something to talk about on this podcast.
I mean, we bought Strixhaven.
I think, though...
I mean, Strixhaven's not a bad book.
No, we enjoyed
Strixhaven.
We enjoyed looking through Strixhaven.
We're never going to run a Strixhaven campaign.
No, I could see running a Strixhaven one-shot.
I could see that.
And the spells from it.
Yeah. Not this Gen Con, but I could see us at a future Gen Con being like, all right, well, we got a lot of adventures here. Why don't we just pull some of them and create some events at Gen Con and run some adventures for people? I would totally be down for that. Like, it's dedicating a day.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, we're doing 4-hour blocks. You got to run 4 of them. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
A lot of D&D in one day. Maybe spread out over like a couple of days. But that's neither here nor there.
Now, we do know, and based on my YouTube and TikTok scrollings, I know that there are some stats or some player character options that people are
a little bit miffed
about.
There's been some hard nerfs to the. I think just to cap off the bestiary.
Yes, let's.
If you just have like the core 3: Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide. This will be a lovely addition.
Yes,
and it's going to be updated to how D&D releases going forward are going to be. If you have Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and you don't really care about having the most up-to-date versions of certain monsters and certain races, and you're okay with how things are now, don't worry about it.
Yeah. You're not 99.9% of people are not playing these huge, massive games where they have to be up to date on everything. Yeah. Most people, a lot of people I know, don't even start new games until a new edition comes out. Mm-hmm.
Seeing how samey this book is compared to the other supplemental monster manuals, I can see why they originally released this as a bundle deal with Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Cauldron or everything.
Yes.
Because it seems like this literally, like, the way they're framing it is if you buy Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, the full starter set that includes the Player's Handbook, and then you buy the Xanathar's, Tasha's, and Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse pack, then you basically have everything you could possibly want to play D&D.
And more, yeah.
And more.
Plenty.
That being said, let's get, I think the juicier thing to talk about here are the races.
Yes.
The race options.
Yes, the race options.
I will say, I love that all of the random races that have appeared in, like, Theros, in Volos, in Mordenkainen's, in freaking Wildmount.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I like that everything is just compiled into one place.
We have made so many, or I've made so many characters. I've watched you do it too, where it's like, I want to play this race. Nope, not this book. Nope, not this book.
That's what I like. That is one thing that I really liked about Wildmount is that a lot of it was reprints of the races, but at least it put a lot of the races in front of you in one place. This has pretty much every single race. I think like the Warforged isn't in there.
Correct.
But like other than that and the PHB ones and like the Pallid Elf or like location specific sub races basically, this has pretty much every single race. And many of them have had some hardcore nerfs. We'll go alphabetical.
Aarakocra.
Instead of having a 50-foot flying speed, you now have a flying speed equal to your walking speed.
And
Which
I don't know if I think okay, never mind.
And the natural weapons are the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people already really loved the Monk Aarakocra combination, but now it kind of makes it like that's the combination that you want to use an Aarakocra with. Obviously, 30 feet of flying speed is nothing to scoff at, but when you could have 30 feet or 50 feet, you take the 50 feet.
I think that we've briefly discussed in our own private off-camera lives, which is most of our lives, doing an overrated, underrated, but I've seen a lot of people also talk about doing an Echo Knight Aarakocra to where
that would be cool.
The Echo can get very far away, and you can basically do sniper missions almost with your Echo.
I mean, yeah, that I could definitely see that being a thing. That's not how I would want to play my Echo Knight. I like the Echo Knight as well, but I don't know. That's just not for me. All right, what are the other? We got the ASMR next. They're pretty much unchanged. Bugbear, unchanged. Centaur. I feel like they did something to the Centaur. No, I don't think they did. Originally appeared in Theros, I believe, the Centaur.
What I've always disliked about the Centaur is it's the joke people make where it's like, well, a Centaur is a medium creature, but it can carry any medium creature, so they can just continue to stack Centaurs. Like, no, that's stupid. Stop that.
That's not how that works.
We have the Changeling.
Unchanged, ironically.
The Smurf Neblin, the Deep Gnome.
The Smurfethelflin. The Snurflefleflin.
Some Swedish person's gonna come kick your ass.
Sverfleflin.
Duragar.
Theolodrin.
The Fairy.
The Fairy, I believe, also had a change. They were one of the flying speed ones, right?
Flying speed. You have a flying speed equal to your walking speed.
Yep. I believe they also previously had more than 30 feet. All of the Genassis are here.
Githyanki and Gethzerai.
The Githyanki, I believe. Which one's the spellcasting one?
That would be the Well, they both have psionics.
So they had one of them had previously like medium armor proficiency that made them a very good option for spellcasters. That I believe, and now it's just like a couple weapon proficiencies instead.
That's right, because if you're wearing armor that you're not proficient in, you can't cast.
Exactly.
Which is one of the most, I think, specific and interesting requirements that Wizards has put into a spell book or a book.
The armor thing with spellcasters seems to me just to avoid these powerful magic wielding characters from having very easy access to like very high AC.
Yeah,
and that's like it. Most of the squishy spellcasters you think of, your sorcerer, your wizard, your bard, they don't get like any armor proficiencies naturally at all.
Yeah.
Some subclasses do. But those subclasses tend to be ones that are more frontline focused. Your blade singer, your valor bard, your swords bard, that kind of thing. And there are other but even it's a weird change, because with how they're moving away from the fixed ability scores, then you have races like the dwarf, the mountain dwarf, that gets natural armor proficiencies. Now the mountain dwarf is suddenly the best spellcasting race because of you can be wearing a freaking breastplate, getting an armor class of AC getting an armor class of 17 at level 1 and be slinging spells.
Or you have the Turtle, who's a natural armor of 18.
Exactly. And it's a weird thing to change because the Githzerai and the Githyanki are already so underutilized in D&D. They've been around for decades. Their lore is kind of shit. Like, no one cares about the Gith.
Yeah. No one has taken the time at any of these studios to go, I love the Gith. Even with I think it was Volo's or Mordenkaine's, one of them has an entire chapter devoted to them, an entire section, and it's still crap.
And it's just boring. Where is, okay, follow me here. Where is the Illithid Mind Flayer adventure module that includes like this weird alien geopolitical landscape between the Gith and Mind Flayers? The Mind Flayers have enslaved them for hundreds of years.
Yeah, that's how they have their psionics canonically.
And they don't have any cool stories to tell about that? Are they too scared to tell a story about slavery?
Possibly.
But
even then, you could take it the Geth Yankee versus the Geth Therai. They have two very different political views, and you could if you wanted to make that two, or a three-way conflict between the three.
Exactly, make a story about adventurers being amongst this oppressed group of people that are so diametrically ideologically opposed to two separate factions within their own group that it's holding them back from being able to fight back against the major aggressor, the major oppressor, that is keeping all of them down, and having the characters try to, through whatever means, joining, like picking a side and giving them supremacy over the other, or finding a way to geopolitically meld them, or at least get them to agree, maybe temporarily, a truce to take on a Mind Flayer society. That, I feel like that adventure writes itself. It would give the Gith some lore that's not just, yep, they've been oppressed. They're enslaved, and they just kind of hate each other.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That is ripe with opportunity. By the way,
what's up?
Open up your notes app. Take note of everything that I just said. Take note of everything that I just said for future homebrew ideas.
If you're interested in that adventure, let us know and we'll put that to our forefront.
I would not be opposed. I have no idea where the fuck I would even begin. I've literally only
We've got some skills to learn before we produce that.
I would have to run some Call of the Netherdeep. I would need to read all of Lost Mines of Phandelver and some other adventure modules just to get a vibe and try and figure out a good way to go about doing that. But I mean, the opportunity is there. The problem, I also think, is that the Gith Zerai, the Gith Yankee, and Mind Flayers might not be in the OGL, which means we have to release them on the DM's Guild, which is a. We don't dislike the DM's Guild. It's just DriveThruRPG.
It has different rules.
It's different rules, different cuts for creators. If you're on DriveThruRPG, you're on the DM's Guild. But if you want to use non-OGL stuff from D&D, you have to be on the DM's Guild because it's the D&D sanctioned one. Basically, it's a whole. We could do an entire episode talking about.
We're getting off topic.
Anyway,
our topic is in here.
There's the GIF. You got the Goliath.
The Harrington.
The Herringon.
Herringon. Yes.
Harrington.
Harrington.
Harrington Darrington.
Paddington.
Harrington Darrington.
The bunny race.
It's a bunny.
It's a bunny.
Where did that come from? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I feel like that's a recent addition.
It originated in the Feywild.
Is that like a Candlekeep thing?
That could possibly be a Candlekeep.
It might be a Candlekeep thing. Anyway, relatively unchanged. Hobgoblin, relatively unchanged. Kenku, flying speed. They didn't have flying speed before.
No, they never had a flying speed. It's in their lore. Yeah. They have
flightless birds.
Flightless bird. They can't come up with original ideas, and they can only mimic.
Now the kobold. People are very upset with how they've changed the kobold.
Yeah, well, tell us about that.
No more pack tactics.
No more pack tactics.
No more pack tactics. Like the core thing that makes the kobold stat blocks unique and powerful is the pack tactics, because they are so numerous that they are successful when they are together, but if you find one on its own, it's kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the original printing of the kobold, I'm sure they're just like, let's take the things that we've done over here with the kobold stat block and let's just make it a race. And
yeah. They've done that for a number of those.
And I mean, obviously, you can get some problem, like a little bit of problem with like getting advantage all the time as like a champion fighter, critting all the time, or a hexblade warlock, or a barbarian, or a rogue, or
obviously player characters are made to last sessions, whereas as individual monster stat blocks are built to last rounds.
Yeah.
So they're often more powerful than you would necessarily ever make a player character in that way.
They punch above their weight. I don't think that pack tactics is that overpowered that a player character can't have it, though.
Yeah.
Is it easy access to advantage? Yeah, but that's why you're picking a kobold. Why do you pick a changeling? Because you want to look different. Why do you pick a genasi? Because you want like that elemental flair and you want a little bit of light spell casting.
Based on this page, again, I didn't do my research today. I've been busy with work. I read the articles beforehand. Give me credit there. But
I give you 0 credit whatsoever.
Well, you can't, so you give me a 1.
Exactly.
But it almost looks like they're trying to also make them less these just silly little caricatures of D&D. And I mean, like you said, I had a kobold before, and I believe the stat or the ability was called like grovel or beg and grovel.
Yeah.
And now it's called Dragonic Cry.
Yeah.
So
trying to take itself more seriously, I get that. But at the same time, one of the core things that made the kobold desirable is now gone.
Yeah.
Which just kind of hinders it from being played more. I mean, it's barely played as it is, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I don't think most people are, unless you're playing an all kobold party. Most people aren't.
Oops, all kobolds. That's always a good time. What's next?
The lizard folk.
Lizard folk, relatively unchanged, I think.
Wasn't there?
Did they have magical resistance? No, they didn't have magical resistance.
I don't know. I think I remember somebody seeing a thing that people are upset about the lizard folk.
Why? Because they like have personality or something?
That was another weird thing. Is just they can't feel.
Yeah, they can't feel. That's a weird thing. I don't know.
This minotaur looks very silly.
Yeah. Now I need to look up.
We're looking up. While you're looking that up, I'm going to say when I think of a minotaur, I don't know why. I always think of an American bison as the minotaur. Never actually this cow that they have here. Yes. So it's always that like big tuft of brown fur on top, and then as you get, and it kind of like a triangular, almost like an upside down arrow or like mouse clicker.
So it seems the main changes are all races speak common and one language of your choice. Any non-walking speed is brought in line to be equal to your walking speed. Flying, swimming, climbing. It's all the same. And all characters have a walking speed of 30 feet, even if it was 25 before.
Now, we are a fan of that.
A big fan of that. Big fan of that. Orcs have a rework. We haven't gotten to orcs yet.
We're at orcs now.
Well, hold on. Hobgoblins. Okay. Hobgoblin apparently had a significant rework. That shows how well we looked at it. They're much more focused on team tactics and helping their allies. Like goblins, they have Fey Ancestry. They also have Fey Gift, which lets them take the help action as a bonus action up to proficiency bonus number of times per day. At 3rd level, when they use the feature, they gain a number of other benefits. You and the creature you help gain temporary hit points. You and the creature you help temporarily increase your walking speeds. And when the creature you help hits a target with an attack roll, that target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes within the next minute. On top of that, the saving face has been reskinned to Fortune of Many, which grants up to a +3 bonus for skill checks when they fail a check and they don't want to, The kobold, basically just reskinned versions of grovel, cower, and beg. And they gain kobold legacy, which gives them some proficiencies and advantage on saving throws against frightened and blah blah blah. The lizard folk. Big change to their unnatural weapons. Their bite now does slashing damage, which affects some small things. It's also, quote, an unarmed attack instead of a natural weapon, which again makes little difference. But they also got a buff to their hungry jaws, which can now be used a proficiency bonus number of times per long rest. The temporary HP you gain is equal to your proficiency bonus instead of your con modifier. which ultimately means you're going to be gaining more in general, but if you start with a high con score, then it's a little bit slower.
Fair enough.
Bugbears also gain Fey Ancestry, as all of the other Goblinoids do. They also have a reworked surprise attack. They now deal 2d6 extra damage against creatures who have not taken their first turn yet. Stacking initiative modifiers are a Bugbear's best friend, as we are already aware of that. And then the Orc, as we just got to, gain an ability called Adrenaline Rush, which is like a reworked aggression. Gives them a bonus action to dash, as well as temporary hit points equal to their proficiency bonus. They can use this a number of times equal to their proficiency bonus, and it reflects... Everything's tied to the freaking proficiency bonus these days. I was very anti that to begin with, like when they first started, but it makes sense. It's an easy thing to track. It's going to be consistent across every type of class.
Yeah.
And
I think it helps because if you're talking about individual abilities, where it's like instead of using them once per day, you can use them a number of proficiency. That makes you be able to use the cool thing. When it comes to like temp hit points, things like that, X times this number of modifier, I don't care.
It's just,
it's fine.
It's fine.
Everything is fine.
They also gain the Half-Orc's Relentless Endurance ability, and they lose their Primal Intuition, which gave them 2 skill proficiencies, but I think the other 2 abilities are a bit better. Have we done the Goblin yet?
No.
We passed up the Goblin. Did we just pass the Goblin?
Goblin.
Yeah, Goblins. They get Fey Ancestry, as they all do.
Yep.
There's some changes to the Fury of the Small, which now does extra damage equal to their proficiency bonus instead of their level, but the buff, which is, it's a buff at level 1, but it quickly falls. They can also use it potentially way more often because you get to use it proficiency bonus number of times now instead of once per rest.
So as opposed to twice per day, once you get past level 3, 4,
something like that,
you can use it now more.
Yeah. And
at that point, it's pretty similar. But like we've pointed out in the past with things, most campaigns stop at level 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. We've done the Orc now.
Yes.
The Satyr.
I've heard a lot of controversy around this one.
The Satyr and the Yuan-ti. The Satyr and the Yuan-ti had a lovely ability. A lovely, lovely, lovely ability. It's called Magic Resistance. It gave them advantage on saving throws against spells, as well as magical effects.
Oh, yes.
Now Magic Resistance is just advantage on saving throws against spells. Is it that big of a change? Not really.
It's an important distinction, I think, because we've talked about in the past, there was what do they call those? The little, hey, crap, I can't. I'm just off today. Anyway, Wizards had a post that basically said, or the creators said, yeah, magical effects and spells are different. So like attacks using, if a creature has an attack that is just firebolt in the stat block, basically, it's a magical effect.
Yeah.
As opposed to a spell. So you couldn't counterspell or you couldn't whatever. So like you're saying, while it's not hugely impactful, it is a distinction.
Yeah. But even when you look at most monster stat blocks, they don't get spell casting. They just get a magical ability. Mm-hmm. They make a ranged, like, magical whatever, or melee magical whatever. Even the Lich has the shocking grasp buff thing. Oh my gosh, why am I... They have the frightening gaze, but they have the other thing. We are just off our game today.
It's a day.
We are just off our game. But like those effects, your beholders, like they all just kind of got a passive buff against these things. But I think people are a little bit more upset about it than they really should be. Who's playing a Satyr? The main reason people ever took a Yuan-ti was for the magic resistance in the first place. Mm-hmm. I also believe they had a change to how... Oh, yeah, we'll get to the Yuan-ti in a second. Yeah. They had a change to how they deal with poison. Satyr, magic resistance, blah-de-blah.
The Sea Elf.
The Sea Elf, I think, is relatively unchanged. The Shatter Kai, I believe, is a new race option.
I think yes.
I don't think it's been
posted. They're obviously the monstrous.
The Shatter Kai.
Shatter Kai.
From the... oh my gosh. We are really out of it, man. I know where they're from. Not the Feywild, it's the dark one. It's the dark version of the Feywild.
Shadowfell.
Yeah, the Shadowfell. They're from the Shadowfell. Oh my gosh.
Looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Shatterkai.
Shifter,
relatively unchanged. Tabaxi, relatively unchanged. Feline agility. I'm surprised that they kept the feline agility, just straight up doubling your speed thing. With how they've been nickel and diming some of these races, I'm surprised that they left it alone, to be quite frank with you.
Once you use the trait, you can't use it again until you move 0 feet. Yeah, I mean, that does have the benefit and a drawback. I think that's the main thing is when you move on your turn in combat, you can double your speed until the end of your turn. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you've moved 0 feet on your turn.
Yeah.
And I think that is fine. Like, I think that
it's always
there
been
was
fine.
a limit. Exactly. That's probably why they didn't change it. There's a limit to it. There's a trade-off.
Yeah. But I mean, with getting rid of some other things that other races have had, it's just like, that thing, like you're doubling your speed. There's entire videos about how you can get a Tabaxi moving like 120 miles an hour or some shit.
That's dependent on the dash action of doubling your speed versus
yeah. Anyway, Tabaxi relatively unchanged.
We could talk about that. Yeah. Another Turtle
pretty much unchanged.
AC 17. I said 18 earlier. This is a correction. It is 17.
The Triton.
The
Triton originally was interesting because it was one of the few races that had just a +1 to 3 specific abilities.
Oh yeah.
Like so the half elf, you could get 3 different abilities, a 2, a 1, and a 1. But the Triton just had a 1 to strength, a 1 to con, and I believe it was a 1 to wisdom.
Maybe, I don't remember.
Which is kind of interesting. Whatever.
Versus the human, which you could just choose.
You just get
one to everything, but you don't get anything else.
Yeah.
And very last, the Yuan Ti.
The Yuan Ti. Give me the book.
Here's the book.
Give me the book.
No.
Here's the book. Poison. So their spellcasting is relatively unchanged. They get animal friendship for snakes. They get suggestion. Magic resistance, as we previously talked, is now only for spells. Poison resilience. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poison condition on yourself. And you have resistance to poison damage. Pretty sure you were just immune to the poison condition previously. And it's kind of weird that a venomous creature is susceptible to poison at all. The poison damage type and the poison condition are very integral to a lot of monsters to try and make their stuff work.
I think I saw a chart of damage types recently, and basically, poison was the number 1 damage type. That most frequent, yes.
Up there with like probably fire and slashing.
Yeah.
To me, who's already playing a Yuan-Ti?
People who are
I
really snake-like.
I don't really see or hear about anyone playing a Yuan-Ti or wanting to play a Yuan-Ti unless they're a min-maxer.
Right.
And they're trying to get a specific thing out of it, probably magic resistance, and then the poison immunity to the poison condition and resistance to the poison damage type is just kind of a bonus.
Right.
So it's kind of weird that it seems like they're trying to even out all of the races, kind of get rid of some of the weirder, silly things that they did with some of the previous races, making everything more equal across the board and trying to give them abilities that distinguish them from one another. And then in the process, taking some of the ones that are less used and then making them less good at the things they were already good at. But they're not played as much anyway, so now there's even less reason to play them.
Right.
It just seems a little...
I think
counterintuitive.
Like you're saying, bringing them all in line with getting rid of, hey, the orc has a +2 to strength and a +1 to con. That was often why people would pick an orc to play as a barbarian or a fighter, and so making that more floating, that floating to +2, +1, or 3 +1s is very takes it to the abilities that each one has. Yeah. And so I'm also wondering if there was just somebody who was sitting there being like, ooh, as soon as they have to choose on abilities, well, who's not going to want to have poison immunity right off the bat? And it's like, okay,
a lot of people,
it's fine, guy, it's fine.
And well, I'm also kind of I feel like I've totally gotten the poison thing wrong about the Yuan-Ti as well, but hold on,
he's looking it up. In the meantime, I'll tell you about Ooh, yeah. Ooh, how about the Instagram? We have an Instagram. Just shouting that out again. Working on having more posts of what we do behind the scenes. Some terrain building we're doing recently, or Connor was doing recently for the Netherdeep campaign. Maybe some closer looks at some of our character minis. That could be a thing in the future. We have a lot going on. Our TikTok's obviously kind of our main thing right now. Hit me with the tea.
Spellcasting. Advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical. Immune to poison damage and the poison condition altogether. It's I get it. And like, you don't want to play your character to have immunity to anything, and I get that kind of.
D&D has, especially
at such a low level, just level 1, you take a race and you get immunity to poison and the poison condition. I get that, but like,
it's weird because especially when I think the condition maybe is a little more esoteric. Where in D&D 5e, if there's, it's not you have one level of disadvantage or something. It's just you have disadvantage in general. It's not you have 2 levels of advantage. You just have advantage, and those will cancel out. And I think taking the poison condition is one of the easiest ways to give a character or a creature disadvantage on so many things. And yet there are so many other ways you can do that. And I think that is often forgotten.
Yeah.
Especially by power builders that we've talked about, min-maxers, where it's like they'll never be able to do this thing to me because I have the inability to be poisoned. Well, there's a bunch of other ways we can do that. It's fine.
There's a million ways to introduce advantage. There's a million ways to introduce disadvantage. I don't know. Like, going back to the kobold with the no pack tactics, like, there are so many tables that have the variant flanking rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically just pack tactics, but a little more specific. And that's available to anyone.
Yeah.
At any point. And there's more than just the poison condition to impose disadvantage on things.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even to mention blinded, deafened, more interesting status effects that are more specific, maybe more specifically hindering to a certain character over another.
Yes.
A deafened spellcaster is really fucked.
But a blinded fighter is not going to be as good. Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I feel you're immune to the poison condition. All right. There's plenty of monsters that blind. There's plenty of spells that blind, and that's just as bad as poison. It's just different. It seems a bit weird to single out some of the things. I will say I'm totally in favor of the flying speed changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just simpler to understand. I'm way in favor of evening out the base walking speeds of everything to 30.
Oh yeah.
I am in favor of a lot of the changes that they made. It's just there's some specific ones that have me scratching my head, and it's to these races that are already so
low pick rate.
I know, like if I'm pretty sure there's been surveys showing the most common combinations of races and classes and that kind of stuff. If there was just a rank ordering of all of the races by how many people have played that a character with that race. Period. Mm-hmm. Not even duration. Just have played a character of that race. The Yuan-ti, the Aarakocra, the Satyr, the Kobold are not going to be in the top half of that list. No. I don't even think they're going to be in the top 3/4 of that list.
Yeah.
Let things be. Like, they've already basically admitted that they're okay with power creep.
Sure.
So now we're going to rein in some things that maybe we're creeping in power a little bit too early that no one even plays anyway, and now people have even less reason to want to play them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It seems a little strange. Let's get our final thoughts on the book.
Final thoughts on the book. We said it earlier, and I'm going to stick with it. If you have Mordenkainen's and Volos already, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and not Mordenkainen. If you have Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and Volos already, this is just going to be more of a convenience thing at best.
Yeah. It's going to modernize a lot of stat blocks to how D&D books going forward are going to look. It has all the races in one place. 30 races in one place. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
There's a lot of options.
But as far as it goes for the bestiary, like I will grab my books to look at the bestiary. I'll find one, and then you know what I do? I go to TetraCube.
Yeah.
And I make it on there, and I either print it out or I leave it on my desktop.
We need to, when we don't have a really big topic to talk about, we need to talk about like TetraCube and RPG cards and
some of our favorites,
like those GitHub amazing resources.
Yeah,
because TetraCube is a phenomenal stat block maker.
Oh, absolutely.
And even the change of like, okay, the spellcasting goes under actions, and then there's going to be a separate spellcasting under bonus actions. It's like, it wasn't hard to use spellcasting as it was previously. If anything, maybe like take the signature spell of a creature, like one or two of them, and put them under actions as an action, or put it under bonus action and be like, this is under spells.
I was going to say, I think 90% of the time when it comes to spellcasting, either if I choose a creature that it has spellcasting, it's because of, like you said, those signature spells, like, oh, this one can cast Fireball.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at a creature and I'm like, I like to use something around this level, but it has like 15 different spell options that I don't know where, then I just won't choose that creature, or I'll choose that creature and not use them.
That's some of the problem with like the Lich, is that it's not easy to use because none of the spells are listed in the stat block, like what to do, or even like a dumbed down version of a spell. It seems just kind of like a lateral move to different but not better or more convenient in my mind, and I may be totally off base with that. It is convenient to have, if you're going to be playing a warlock type monster, it's convenient to have Eldritch Blast just listed under actions.
Yeah.
It's convenient to have Hex listed under bonus actions. It's convenient as a one of the wizards, like an Abjurer wizard, to have like Counterspell and Shield under reactions. Like, that's nice to have. But at the same time, why do they need to list the spells under actions? It doesn't, it's and
right.
Like have now the spell list is scattered across multiple things. Also, I've noticed the trend of a lot of stat blocks and I even noticed this in Call of the Netherdeep, where some spellcasting NPCs, instead of having spell slots, they just have, these are the spells you can do at will, these are the spells you can do once a day, these are the spells you can do 3 times a day, and just call that good. Mm-hmm. Which, simpler, but now that's another method of having to keep track of things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see it as either good or bad. I just see it as strange that they felt the need to do it.
Mm-hmm. I think they were trying to simplify it. Spellcasting is a system on top of the system of combat, which is a system on top of the combat, system of D&D. And unfortunately, you can't simplify it just by what they did. A scattershot, basically. Yeah. So
there are people that are going to vibe with it. And if you do, great. At the end of the day, if you are new to D&D and you have a player's handbook and a monster manual and a DMG, this is a great addition to your collection. This will expand your race options like 4 or 5 times. Mm-hmm. It's going to include some amazing stat blocks that have been used from Volos and Tomophos for years now. If you get this book in the collection with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and then you get the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, like, you're well on your way to getting everything you could want out of D&D that they have right now.
You spent a lot of money.
You did. You spent a lot of money in one go. But if you already have your collection, I mean, we get it. We got it because we wanted to talk about it and we wanted to see what all the fuss was about. It was a weird release to begin with, that it came out in a box set and then months down the line came out individually, which was strange. It's weird that it's a replacement for not a core rule book, but supplemental books, and not even the entirety of those supplemental books. It's just a weird product. And we also want to like fill out our shelf more.
That too.
We need more.
We're getting closer every day.
It feels like every couple of weeks another one of these books comes in, and it's like, wow, that shelf one day is just going to be D&D like wall to wall instead of like D&D 2/3 of the way, and then some third party stuff that doesn't match the same style, and then the cat mimic, and then some other things to fill in the space so they don't topple over. One day it's just going to be wall to fucking wall, and that's going to be awesome.
It's going to be a cool day. We'll take a picture. We'll put it on the Instagram.
We will put it on the Instagram. Also, while you begin perusing the comments of the TikTok Live for questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas, I'll go run through the spiel. You can find our link tree in the bio of any of our social medias. There you can find links to our YouTube, our TikTok, where we gained our notoriety, which, by the way, we passed over 18,000 followers. Yay. Awesome. We're thinking about doing a 20K thing. We don't know, like Papa Lycan does his creator contest. We don't want to ape that, obviously. I'm not against aping it, but I respect my father, we all should.
As we should, yes.
And
our father who art in TikTok.
Yeah. And I sidebar, I'm not saying that you need to respect your dad. I'm saying you need to respect your father.
Also, side note,
a lot of people have really shitty dads.
Also, side note, Papa Lycan doesn't know that we're calling him our dad.
I don't know if Papa Lycan really knows.
Papa Lycan
knows who we are. I don't think he thinks about us that often.
Probably not. But hey, if you all, I think we got 3 people in the chat. If you guys want to go tell Papa Lycan that...
He commented on our live last time.
He did. Something about a tank.
Maybe he does know us more than we think he does. I don't think he knows that we think that he is our legitimate father.
Right.
We are his heirs, after all. Man, we got a sidebar within a sidebar within a sidebar in that one. The TikTok, over 18,000 followers. The YouTube, we want to make YouTube videos. It's just life sucks right now.
Life is rough, man.
And we have other things we need to do first. And we have the Instagram now. We're doing a lot of reposts now. We want to do some Instagram Reels / YouTube Shorts specific content in the future. We have a link to our DriveThruRPG where you can find our monthly free releases of Homebrew available to any and all, pay what you want, as well as our $4.99 Blood Magic Supplement Pack that we talked about last episode. We are very excited about that. Someone bought it. One person bought it.
Which a couple people redeemed their free copies as well.
We sent out a bunch of free copies. Nearly half of them are unredeemed still, which, to be fair, I did send out like 15 of them to people that didn't ask for it.
Fair.
Or win it at a contest.
But, fair.
It is like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. And we removed the Twitter link because...
we're bad at Twitter.
We're really bad at Twitter. We just did not use that account. We're keeping it for posterity's sake.
Yes.
And so that if
might
we decide
do
to,
some retweets.
You never know.
For him time to time.
You can feel free to find us on Twitter at Dungeon Bros YT. And you can review us, follow us on any podcast service around the globe.
Yeah.
Podcast services around the globe. Apple, Google, Spotify, Pandora.
We would love a review. It bumps us in the ratings. We'd love a listen. That also really helps us.
Yeah, reviews are the biggest way to help out a podcast on any podcast service, even if it's not us. Find a podcast you like and review them 5 stars. And put something nice in the comments. That helps them.
Say, we came here because we loved you.
And the Dungeon Bros, they suggested it. So what do we got in the TikTok live chat? Anything worthwhile?
Yeah. Oh, we got some stuff. We have Caesar in Widdadaney Weenie.
Oh boy.
What's poppin'?
Don't mind me, just watching.
Jean Paul says hello.
Hello, governor.
Purex BeautyX says, do fish get thirsty?
Yes.
No. Moving on. Can't read that. Folded page.
Oh, you can't read it like we're not supposed to read it, or can't read
I
it like
scrolled past it too far.
Oh, well.
Folded Page actually has a legitimate question for us. Oh. Thank you, Folded Page. Folded Page asks, what is your best piece of advice for a new player, and what is your worst piece of advice?
For a new player.
For a new player.
The best piece of advice that I have is, oh boy, don't worry about creating a unique or interesting character. Just play the game. You don't need to be fancy. You want to be a human champion fighter, and you just want to hit some things with a sword and laugh at a table with your friends. That's more than good enough. My worst piece of advice is every meme that you see about D&D is 100% true, and if you don't follow the stereotypes, you'll be shunned profusely. If you play a bard and you don't try to seduce every monster, NPC, and other human being at that table, don't play bard. That's my worst advice.
So my best advice is don't think you have to stay at a table if you're not having fun.
Yes.
Just because, it's a buddy of yours, or it's your first time and maybe you're not getting it, or maybe it's your buddy and you don't like their style, or they're making you feel uncomfortable, you can leave.
Yep.
And also beyond that, that's not the only D&D experience. We've been very lucky to have very good D&D experiences with friends of ours, and our tables we've always had fun at.
Some frustrating times. But always coming from a place of fun and enjoyment.
Mm-hmm. My worst piece of advice is it's about you.
Only you.
You're the main character.
If you're the only one that needs to have fun, and everyone is there for your enjoyment.
Yeah, you are the main. You are Naruto. You. There's a Sasuke
Luffy,
retrieval arc.
You are Luffy.
You
are
you're
Ichigo. You're
Midoriya.
You are Midoriya.
You're Tanjiro.
You are Tanjiro.
And everybody else is just your supporting cast.
You are Eren Yeager.
And
your party is you are Mikasa, you are Armin, you're Levi.
Mm-hmm.
And, Levi may be more interesting, but you're Eren fucking Yeager. Levi can't turn into a Titan.
No.
Spoiler alert for season 1.
All right.
Well, anything else?
Yeah, I got a couple more. Yoshi Shai says, "How are you guys? We're tired."
Very.
John Keener the Fourth.
Ah, the John.
Friend of the show.
The Keen himself.
Who nearly wasn't born, I think.
That was the story he was trying to tell us that one live.
Hi, John.
We were celebrating our 10,000th follower and joining the TikTok Creator Fund, and we were just having a live stream where we were drinking and talking to people, and he was trying to tell us his life story about how he almost wasn't born. Because we were like, the fourth? Tell us about the third, second, and first. He's like, well.
All right, here we go. Michaela Stoltz asks, "How do I find people to play D&D with if no one near me wants to play?"
Well,
this is a common question.
So common. First, self-plug, the Dungeon Bros Discord server. We have a looking for group channel. I think I'm going to make it into a category and get more granular with the different channels to make it more user-friendly for people trying to find a group. We do have people that are trying to get a group together. They're just perpetually a player short, and just the timing of when they want to do things isn't working out yet. But they just want one more person that can fit in their time slot, and I feel like DK Alexander is going to be able to get that game going, which I'm very excited to witness happen.
Link in the link tree in our bio.
Link in the link tree in the bio. It is free for everyone to enter. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. Follow the rules.
But more importantly,
over 100 people in the Discord server already.
But more importantly, if you don't want to go online, we play with the same group over and over, and I think it's kind of in that same vein. But honestly, when I didn't have people near me that wanted to play D&D or that weren't already in a group, I went back and I'm like, look, this was back in 2015. No pandemic yet. But I found 3 old friends from high school who were like, sure, we'll try it. And we played over Facebook chat, video chat.
I didn't know that.
It was rough.
That sounds horrible.
But I think you'll be surprised that, maybe your closest 5 people don't want to play D&D.
Yeah. More often than not, that will be the case.
Some of our best friends.
Our bestest friend. The Rachels.
Mm-hmm.
Even Jacob, even though he plays with us, he's not really there for the D&D.
No.
He's there for the enjoyment of being around his friends, which I respect. And even my original D&D group that I started running many a year ago, one person was a good friend from college. The other 4 were couples that I met through other people that I was like friendly acquaintances with, that I am now friends with. Zach and Hannah, a married couple. I met them through a mutual friend, and I hung out with them like a couple times, and we talked about D&D. And they happened to be interested, and I asked, hey, do you want to play in a one-shot, and then do you want to play in a campaign? And the same thing with Q and other Hannah, or, oh no, she'll be upset if I call her other Hannah, with Hannah.
OG Hannah.
With OG Hannah and Q. I met them through a mutual friend of ours that I met in college, and I met them at one of his birthday parties that was thrown for him as a surprise from his then girlfriend, now wife. And we hit it off, and it was lovely, and they also enjoyed D&D, and I brought up the idea of a one-shot, and they were totally in. And here we are several years later, several months since the last time we played, and level 11. Started at level 2.
So what we're saying is you'll find people in unlikely places, and as hard as it sometimes seems, you gotta make friends.
You gotta talk about it. Gotta people in real life.
Gotta get out of your comfort zone.
If you are looking for more digital options, there's 1,000,001 Discord servers. There's 1,000,000 forums that have looking for groups. You can chances are you can find a local adventurers league. We've never done adventure. I feel like that needs to be an episode we do. Is go and
just go and do an adventures league.
We need to play an adventures league game once.
All right.
And talk about adventures league.
Let's do it. Like in the fall, maybe.
Yeah, when we're like chilled the fuck out. And maybe look at like your local game shop, your local comic shop, your local whatever. Chances are there's a D&D night. The public library sometimes has a D&D night. And sure, that's more for like high schoolers. I don't know how old you are. There's options available to find strangers on the internet and in real life, and people that you know that you may not be like really good friends with. You might know them and you're friendly and you don't dislike them. You just don't know that they might be into it yet. And to be fair, your friends might not know they're into it yet until they're into it.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people are very hesitant to start D&D because they're like, that's not for me. That's a nerd thing. Or that seems complicated.
Yeah. Once you get into it, though, if that's the kind of thing you could be into, then you're into it. Even our friends that aren't super into it are like, yeah, we'll play D&D again. They just don't. Some people are struggle with schedules or being able to commit to a long-running thing, so more of a one-shot vibe. Mm-hmm. And, the cat has finally joined us from her long slumber.
Anyway, so Michaela, thank you very much for your question. We meandered, but what we're saying is you do you, girl.
You do you. You always do you.
Unless you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Then, I don't know, be Batman?
I mean, he's very overrated. I'm not a Batman fan.
I like the games.
They're fine.
Anyway, nope, that's it. That's all we have today. It's about 6 o'clock almost.
It is. I have 20 minutes to get changed, get ready for, and she's clawing at the dice tray in the cat bed. Why are you like this? I still don't know why she never wanted to sleep in the bed until we put the dice tray in there.
I don't know either.
It's dumbfounding to me. But again, link tree in the bio for all of our social medias. Get links to our YouTube, our Twitter. Well, not Twitter anymore. Our YouTube, our Instagram, our TikTok, our DriveThruRPG, our Discord server, free and open to everyone. And
it's been an episode. We're sorry.
It's been an episode, I can tell you. It's been an month.
In the meantime, peace.